All right, it's preparing to live stream right now.
Wow. Cool.
I think we're good.
Yeah, we're on.
I think so. Okay, cool. So, welcome to anybody listening in or tuning in later. Thank you for tuning into the Grateful Living podcast. Today, I am thankful to have Dr. Ruchi Gupta with me today. Ruchi is a professor of pediatrics and medicine at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine and a clinical attending at Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. She has more than 17 years of experience as a board certified pediatrician and health researcher, and currently is the founding director of the Center for Allergy and Asthma Research, otherwise known as CFAR. Ruchi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Arnav. This is fun. I enjoyed my last conversation with you a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. And so the reason we're here is Ruchi is just came out with her book about a week ago, Food Without Fear: Identify, Prevent, and Treat Food Allergies, Intolerances, and Sensitivities, with Kristen Loberg as well as a co-author. So Ruchi, for everyone that I guess to get a sense of, you and things like that, who did you write this for, and who can find this book of value?
Great question. I wrote this for you, Arnav. I wrote this for people like you, and the general population of people who have food conditions, really anything. And the reason behind writing a book like this, it was challenging because we really tried to take on and develop a food condition spectrum, looking at food allergies, which, I talk about all the time, but really broadening it into other food conditions. So, intolerances, those mixed ones, things like EOE, and then even other GI related ones, inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, and others. And the reason is when we, I study epidemiology in our lab, and my team work a lot on prevalence. And, what we know is 1 in 13 kids have food allergies, 1 in 10 adults. But when we looked at the adult survey, 1 in 5 adults have a food condition and are avoiding something. And only 1 in 20 are going to get it diagnosed. All right. So that's a big difference. So what is happening? Well, a lot of times we eat a food and then have a negative reaction and then take it out of our diet. And we don't think, oh, I'm going to go to the doctor and get it diagnosed, because we think, okay, obviously I can't eat this food and they're going to tell me to stop eating this food. So, but there is a lot you can do, and different conditions require different management, and potentially, some have treatments. So, and some, you may have taken out or had a one-time situation with, and you may not truly be allergic to, or, have an intolerance to. So you can add it back into your diet. But this book helps, gives you like a survey, a quiz to take to really understand what may be happening. And then the spectrum kind of lays out, symptoms, and then what conditions they could be. And then we describe every condition in detail in the book. And so take that quiz to your doctor, have a conversation, get to either an allergist or a GI doctor, depending on, where you fall, and get it diagnosed and get it good management. I mean, empower yourself. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. And to put that, I think that 1 in 5 number that you had said, I think the book cites that, up to 85 million people might be avoiding certain foods for food conditions. So
Very
that's
good. You read it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, good job.
Yeah.
Prep for the interview. It's always good to skim the book.
yeah. No, got to see what was on here.
That's right. 85 million. That was a study we did with FAIR and McKinsey. where they really looked at the general population and asked about how many people are avoiding some food for any food condition. And 85 million is a lot of people. So,
And another interesting thing I saw was I think it's half of adults with allergies develop another one in adulthood. So I think a lot of us have the misconception that, oh, if we didn't have it in childhood, we're never gonna, but
yeah,
that was interesting to me that you could be eating for like 20 years and not know of something and then something comes up later.
that's right. And I think that's a really important point. And I'm glad you brought that up because we do, like forever, we've thought of this as a childhood thing, right? We've been focused on the kids and all our young kids because as adults we care about our kids more than we care about ourselves, and we focus in on their food allergies, and we did see this rise in kids, but then we started hearing about it in adults more and more. And when we did this study, it was really shocking. Half of all adults are developing a food allergy, a new food allergy as an adult, and the number one allergy for adults is shellfish by far. So really narrowing that down and trying to understand what is it. And if we can really understand what's going on in adults, maybe we'll understand those environmental triggers, the turn on switch for allergies. Why, if you're not genetically, if you have some genetic predisposition, what is the environmental trigger? So we did ask adults, and we're looking at this data right now. We did ask them, like, what do you think happened? Did anything change in your environment, your world, when you developed a food allergy? And the adults, it's interesting. It's very cool to hear hypotheses from people who have developed it. But a couple of things that are implicated is environmental changes, right? So if you move either from a place to another place, or even a building or an apartment or a house, right? Like your indoor environment could be very different, and could that stimulate any kind of an allergy? Also, like if you had a viral or bacterial infection, right? Did something hit your immune system to cause you to become more susceptible? And then another one is for women, especially hormonal changes. We see a lot of times during puberty, during pregnancy, and during menopause, either development or loss of allergies. So yeah, adults are interesting. It's very interesting for me to do this because it opens up, each research paper opens up a whole nother, 100 questions,
Yeah, no, and I to your credit, I feel like this is and I don't know if this is the way you want people to see it this way, but it almost felt like, the perfect encyclopedia, because you break down everything into different categories and break that into, and it's really, if you're looking to get the actual information, it's really well written for that purpose.
And I have to say, because I know you're such a thoughtful, host, and so I have to give credit where credit is due. Like all of this is not my expertise, and so many people contributed to this book. A couple of allergists, cover to cover editing, and then GI doctors and dermatologists, and yeah, you name it, dietitians. They're all, named in the back of the book, but it took a team because, like you said, we really wanted this to be comprehensive. So we brought in experts in all areas. So a lot of brain power, a lot of literature review, a lot of data. Yeah. And it's going to be outdated soon because the research is moving so fast. And that's very exciting. I wanted to, and someone will come out with another one. Yeah. Maybe you.
No, not me. Definitely not me. What you were just talking about, I found the cross allergen section kind of really interesting, with like the pollen and things like that, maybe a fruit or something like that you might also be. Do you want to say anything about that?
Important. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. So when you think about the spectrum, right? There's a lot of things on this spectrum that we have in the book, and it starts with the allergies, and we talked about food allergies being immune mediated, right? So they are your immune system's recognizing this food as an invader and going on attack mode. But there's other things in that allergy category that are similar but different. And oral allergy syndrome or pollen food allergy syndrome is one of those. And what happens is a lot of people with food allergies also have environmental allergies, right? And that whole atopic spectrum that goes together, the eczema, environmental, food allergies, and then asthma. That's the whole atopic spectrum. But what pollen food allergy syndrome is you are actually allergic to the pollen, and that pollen is cross-reacting with that food. So a lot of times you hear it most with fruits and vegetables, so you'll eat something and you'll get only oral symptoms. So you'll get like, some swelling of the lips or itchy, burning lips or
tingling.
Tingling of the tongue, throat, little tingling, but it's only oral. And if that is happening to you, I've had so many people then just take it out of their diet, worry that they have a food allergy. And it's a category under allergies. But what's important to note is you need to see your allergist, because you can potentially eat the food under certain circumstances. And it's typically not life-threatening, right? It usually stays within the oral realm. So you don't have to have, all the super caution and fear that comes along with a true, food allergy that you're allergic to the protein in the food itself. So I don't know if that makes sense, but the biggest thing for your listeners are, if it's only oral, fruits, vegetables, typically see your allergist, because it may not be a true food allergy.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was really cool in the book. Early on, you defined the difference between a tolerance and an allergy, which may be why 85 million people avoid certain foods, because they might not understand the difference. Do you want to give us the layman's version of trying to understand the difference?
Yeah, I can try. It is the core of the book, so I better know this. So an allergy is immune mediated. And so that's what we were talking about. Your immune system is attacking the food. So your immune system is recognizing the protein in that food. So let's take peanut as one of the most common examples, the protein in the peanut as an invader. And then it goes into attack mode, and it releases all these cytokines and chemicals that cause all these symptoms, right? So as many people may know, your symptoms can be any body system. You can have the skin, the hives, very common, redness, itching, swelling. Then you go down and you can have your throat tightening. You hear that a lot. And then you can have breathing issues. So trouble breathing, chest tightening. And then you can even have cardiovascular symptoms, right? So you can have a drop in blood pressure, GI symptoms, so vomiting. And a lot of this can occur very rapidly, but it's because your immune system's going on attack, right? It thinks it's protecting your body from an invader when the food is not an invader. So that is food allergies. And that's why it's so scary, because it's usually very fast, usually immediate, and it can be very severe and life-threatening. On the other side in the spectrum, and so I'm kind of meaning through the spectrum, are what we call intolerances or sensitivities. Those are also very troublesome. I'm not, you get this GI distress, you get cramps, you get bloating. A lot of times people say their heads are foggy, or they're getting migraines, like terrible migraines. So it's so important to understand your intolerances. But what this is usually is caused by your body's inability to digest the protein in the food. So for lactose intolerance, one of the most common ones, you do not have an enzyme that digests that lactose. And so there are things you can do. You can take a pill with the enzyme in it. You can get special milk products that don't have that lactose free, so that's why it's important, because there are things you can do for that. And now there are things you can do for food allergies, and more treatments coming down the pike. So very important to note. Other ones, like in the middle there, you've got some mixed ones like EOE, eosinophilic esophagitis, which we're seeing more and more. And this is an important one to note, because if your symptoms are more around food getting stuck in your throat, or feeling like you can't fully swallow it, a lot of times coughing with eating, their symptoms are a little bit different, but the mechanism is totally different, right? So you're getting eosinophils infiltrating your esophagus, and you need to get this diagnosed because it's really important. A lot of these kids can have growth issues and can have strictures and things develop in their esophagus. So again, but that you would go to an allergist, but you really need to see a GI doctor. So in the book, we ask a series of questions, and once you answer them, you can narrow down the condition that you potentially have. And then when you talk to your doctor about it, they can send you, either to an allergist or to a GI specialist, to help you with that. And then, on the other end, when we call them masqueraders, but they're really important conditions, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, things like that, or even celiac disease, which we're also seeing a rise in, is very common. Some foods like gluten, right, can go in any three categories. You can have a true wheat allergy. You can have a gluten intolerance where you're not digesting it. And you can have celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease, to gluten. So, and it's so important to know which one of those you have going on.
Yeah. What would you say, I guess, for an adult that thinks they might have, some sort of allergy or tolerance issue? And then on the second part, maybe, for a parent, if you think your child might, what would be the steps you would recommend?
So for an adult who eats something, has a negative reaction, doesn't know what they have, take the quiz in the book. Yeah. But also, and it's also on our website. So foodwithoutfearbook.com is our website. It's on there, take a look, answer some questions, better understand, what may be happening in your body. And then get to your doctor, and get to a primary, depending, if you can go straight to an allergist, and you think it is something allergy related, then do. And then the allergist will do some testing. They'll either do blood or a skin prick test or both. And then depending on the results and your history, your story of your symptoms, we have a mnemonic in the book called STOP, and S stands for signs and symptoms. So always know what your signs and symptoms were of your reaction. T is type. So what type of food did you eat? Timing, when did the reaction happen? A lot of the intolerances, a lot of the conditions they're delayed, right? They're after a few hours. Whereas a food allergic reaction happens immediately. So know the timing, when it happened, and then treatment, what did you treat it with? And any testing that you did around it. And then O, what opinions have you gotten? What options do you have? And then P is your empowerment plan and path forward. So when you get to an allergist, they'll do some testing. If you think it's more GI related, they'll do their testing, but eventually you will get to the bottom of exactly what you have. And why it's so important is, at least in food allergy, the testing can, so the testing for these skin prick test and the blood test I mentioned, they are both, they're good tests to detect no allergy, right? So the negative predictive value is very good, but the positive predictive value is almost 50-50. So if you don't know exactly what you ate and your test is kind of borderline, it is important to get an oral food challenge. And that's when you pretty much eat the food in your allergist's office under supervision. So that, I know so many people who have gone through that, and then they realize they're not allergic to the food. Also, you can grow out of a lot of these foods. So it's important to keep going back and not, label yourself with it for life, because you can develop tolerance. So getting back, getting tested, if needed, getting an oral food challenge to really know if you have it or if you don't is really important, so that you don't have to, live without that food forever, and you can add it back into your diet.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. And, I guess, did anything surprise you from your research that you were like, wow, I really wasn't expecting this?
Oh my gosh, things surprise me every day from our research. Every study we do, there's always something you're like, wow, like a lot of our research is common sense research, but a lot of it is really surprising. I think even with the adult research, I was shocked that 20% are avoiding a food because they have a food condition. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I was also surprised that, so many adults are developing it as adults. And that was really surprising because we don't talk about that usually. And we don't, people just avoid it and live their lives. And oh my goodness, every group like surprises you in some way. And gosh, I mean, I can go on and on. Like
Yeah.
this whole types of foods that people are starting to become allergic to is so interesting. Our research finally showed that sesame is number 9. And it's so exciting to see that be a part of the FASTER Act that was just passed. And now sesame will go on the label because we've seen so many people who have sesame allergy having accidental reactions and ingestions because of mislabeling, right? Because it's in so many hidden ingredients. And so that's a big win. I think the FASTER Act for the whole food allergy community to finally have sesame on the label and all the other stuff, have the government more involved with really following trends, of food allergy and what's happening.
Yeah. And the book also talks about some issues with the allergen labeling,
Yeah.
and how it's, not regulated. I
No,
don't know
and
if you want to say a few words there.
sure. There's so many misconceptions. So we did a study to see what people knew about food labeling. And what we found is that there was a lot of misunderstanding. And the main misunderstanding was with precautionary allergen labeling. So the law requires that the top 8 foods are clearly labeled. Okay, so it's peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, finfish, soy, wheat, egg, milk, right? So those top 8 have to be clearly labeled. So bold, in the ingredient list, or, contains, and then have them listed. You see all different types, but very clear labeling for those. And that's what the new law added sesame. So I'm trying to remember, I think it's by 2024, but the sesame needs to be on all labels in the same format.
Cool.
But precautionary allergen labeling is the may contains and the manufactured in a facility with, or manufactured on a line with, or, there's so many ways you can say those. And the problem with those is they're not regulated and they're voluntary, and industry puts it on themselves based on, what they think around that food product. There's no thresholds with it, like saying, oh, okay, this label means that it has this many milligrams, of the food protein. There's a lot of work being done on how can we make that happen, and can we really put a threshold on it? Can we measure an individual's threshold? Can we say, what's your threshold, Arnav? What can you eat up to without problems, So there are things happening, but right now, precautionary allergen labeling is not regulated. But many people, what we found is a lot of people have to make their own decisions on what's safe for them to eat. So a lot of people were saying, okay, I won't eat the may contains, but if it's manufactured in a facility with, then I'll eat that. Cause that sounds a lot safer to me. And so, cause it does, it sounds safe.
Yeah.
That a may contain, it's a manufactured in. So, so people have to make their own judgments. And so they'll eat a product with one label, but not with another label. But the labels don't mean anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm making sense. It's making sense in my own head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's precautionary allergen labeling. And it's really hard because people really do have to make their own decisions, because it's hard to get foods without precautionary allergen labeling. So a lot of people with food allergies eat foods with PAL, labeling on it. And it's hard to know what to say, because, again, I mean, I think, a big part of our research is disparities as well. And getting safe foods that without PALs, without the precautionary allergen labeling, is expensive too.
Mhm.
It's not easy to get a food product with no precautionary allergen labeling on it. You have to usually go to a specialty store or a online specialty food group. So, there's a lot to it that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah. There was also some aspects of, you found some interesting allergies on the rise with respect to red meat and exercise.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Sure. Oh my gosh. This is like the stuff you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So, so Alphagal syndrome, it's it's a tick-borne disease, right? So it's a Lone Star tick that gets you, and you tend to get have a similar reaction. It could be anaphylaxis to red meat. So it's a really important one, but the reaction is often delayed, right? So it's delayed by several hours. So it's not that immediate reaction, but then hours later you have those similar anaphylactic symptoms. And it's really troublesome because, you know, you're eating it fine and then you get, you know, a tick bite. And then all of a sudden now you've got alpha-gal syndrome. And it's recently discovered not too long ago. And it's really important if you're seeing any of these symptoms to get to an allergist. The other one, the exercise, this is also, you know, challenging for people because they're like, what's going on with me, because I am fine eating this food. But then when I go and exercise, I go for a run afterwards, I get into anaphylaxis, right? I start having all these symptoms happen to me. This is called food dependent exercise induced anaphylaxis. So again, so important to get to an allergist and figure out, you know, what food is it that's causing this? But normally you can eat it fine. It's just if you go exercise immediately after eating it, you start having a lot of these symptoms. So yeah, there's all of those fall under the allergies, you know, that category of the allergies, but important to distinguish what it is and what's going on in your body.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a Grateful Living podcast without some personal, the whole self. So, before I get there, was there anything else with respect to the science aspect that you wanted to touch on, or that people could look forward to reading about? Or
yeah, I mean, I think the other two things that are really interesting in this book, and I get asked about a lot, is the why, right? So we have a whole chapter going over, you know, the microbiome. We even hit on autoimmune connections, which we don't know a ton about, but we tried to do our best to sum up what we do know. A lot of people ask about that a lot. And then we really get into some of the big strides we've made for prevention, which is very exciting. You know, this whole early introduction, you know, I really want to see these trends turn around. And I really encourage everyone who has young children, young infants, you know, introduce peanut products early, diet diversity. And we can get into that, you know, at some other point, but it's all in this book. There's a whole guide to introducing foods to your babies that I had allergists and dietitians really review and help write. The other big thing in here is the excitement of new treatments, right? So there are new treatments. There's tons of research, amazing researchers. I talk about so many of them in the book, so many more I couldn't get to. But this field is really exploding in terms of, you know, the research that's being done in it on every aspect from prevention to treatment. So a lot of great treatments that are coming down the pike our way, you know, and people will have choices, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, which is very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I'm curious. So first, for someone, maybe they're an undergrad student or something like that, and they're passionate about allergies. What do you think is the best way for them to get into being able to study allergy?
Write me.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Hey.
No, I'm serious. I think if anyone has an interest in getting involved, you know, from a research standpoint, advocacy standpoint, you know, wanting to be involved in a clinical trial, you know, just whatever it is, there's a lot of resources. Researchers in your area, pretty much, like I said, there's so many that there's probably someone in your area studying allergies or other allergic conditions. All of us are so excited to mentor and help young students. I know this summer we had 25 summer interns and we had 50 high school students. So we really try.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I always say my favorite thing, if I had to give up everything, the one thing I'd keep is mentoring, because it is the best part of my day to get to talk to young people like you who are very excited about, the field and what's happening and want to get involved, because you're going to be the next change makers. We can only take it so far, and then you guys have to, keep it going. So,
You're still young.
Yeah. You don't know.
Don't act like you're retiring tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. But yeah. So please contact. There's a lot of organizations out there, and we list them in the book. A lot of food, and we list them on our website. So foodwithoutfearbook.com. Call those organizations. So many of them do so much around advocacy, and contacting them and seeing how you can get involved. We're creating, boards, student boards, teen boards. So it's more advocacy. And I'm always happy to help. Yeah, I know a lot of the researchers around the country, happy to help, have done it so many times. My team knows, how do we help get you involved? Because we talk about that in the book, the butterfly effect, right? We need everybody to get involved and do their part, to really take this to the next level of more treatments, more prevention, and turning this tide around, back to low numbers of allergies and food conditions and food freedom. So
yeah, no, and studies that come out, saying it's better to introduce peanuts early on, things like that can make generational shifts in the rates.
Yeah. And keep being curious. I know I've said this to you before, but ask questions and have ideas and follow them, because, a lot of things that come out of our center are people we meet along the way who come and say, I really have this idea and I want to do it. And we do our best to support them and encourage them. But so many things have come out of other people coming to us and saying, can you help me figure this question out, or going to another academic center, or learning the skill set to do it on your own, so please keep being curious, ask questions, figure out where the holes are, right? Where things are needed. I think I told you the story, like we had a early childcare professional come and say, you have resources for elementary, middle, and high school, but not for daycare centers. And that's where a lot of this is happening. So then we said, okay, come on board and let's create it together. And we did. We wrote a paper around it, what are the misconceptions, what's going on, and created educational material. Then a lot of our interns came and said, that's all cool, but what about college? Because we don't have much in our college.
Yeah.
And so we're doing all this stuff with colleges now. So I think it is really important to ask those questions, share them with people who can help you get them done, and keep filling those holes.
Yeah, that's great advice. Personally curious how you balanced, being a professor, a clinical attending, being a mom. And you also managed to write a book. Like, how did you find the time? Like, how did you do it?
Gosh, I mean, how do we all do what we do, right? Everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Everybody's working hard. I think what's so important is whatever you're passionate about, it doesn't really feel very much like work, right? So you enjoy doing all of these things. And the biggest thing for me, and another big point, I think one of the most important things, is collaborate. I don't do it all on my own by any means. I mean, I have a team of almost 50 people, and a lot of faculty, a lot of managers, a lot of research coordinators and assistants, and a lot of students, and it takes everyone to be a part, and do what they do best, to make all of it happen. So like I said, even this book was a bit collaborative, right? So collaborate. I was learning about, this whole thing of talking about strengths, right? And follow what you're really good at. None of us can be good at all of it. So one big advice, is just do the best you can, right? And then find people, who can support you or who have the same interests, to help you get it all done. Right. So I've had help in every aspect of my life, like
Yeah.
from the kids to the work to the book to, every single other thing we do. And so that's why I hate saying I did it, because it's, whatever, there's no I in team or whatever. Right? So it's really important. Like I always tell my team, and they know this so well, like I don't like having it be just me or my picture. It's everything happens within this big team. And if it wasn't for all of them, nothing would ever get done on your own. So collaborate, find people to help you with things that you're not as good at. Use your strengths, place, the most amount of work you should do with things that you're passionate about and that you have unique strengths in.
Yeah. Ruchi, has there been a question that people haven't asked you so far, and while you've been doing your press tours, that you've wanted to be asked?
Wow. I can't even think of one. I feel like everyone's asked everything. They've asked a lot of questions I didn't know the answers to, too.
Okay.
No. Do you have any burning last questions?
No, I mean, I guess so. In general, I guess if people want to grab it, where can they find it? Do you want to let them know?
Yeah, you can find it hopefully in your local bookstore. If not, it is online at all booksellers, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, etc. There's an Audible version. If you want to really listen to me tell you the story of the book and help you sleep at night, you can do that. It's on Audible, it's on the iBooks app or whatever. So it's around there, I think. And you can go to our website. It's foodwithoutfearbook.com. And we have all of the booksellers and everyone on that too. So enjoy it. And then, visit us at our website. It's cfaar.northwestern.edu. And that's where we have a lot of free resources. So please check them out. A lot of educational awareness things for kids and adults that could prove helpful.
Yeah. And I don't want to speak for you, but I think if anybody is dealing with any interesting stories themselves, they can always reach. I mean, because there are some personal stories in the book too of people. So I don't want to speak for you, but I think you agree with that sentiment.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Please reach out. I mean, if you have any interest, I love getting them. I can't, and then be persistent. Yes. Because it's a little busy, but I promise if you're persistent, we will respond and we'll help get you connected or add you to our team. We have a listserv and we have newsletters updating on research and policies that are happening. So, join our larger CFAR family.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Ruchi, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with the other press interviews you have and everything related to the book. And hopefully see you soon again.
Yeah. Thank you, Arna. Thanks for everything you do.